will take 20 minutes to a half an hour, hopefully, so that we won't keep people who are standing too long. So thank you for being here, and welcome to today's dedication of the Hedges New York State Historic Marker. This occasion isn't as much about looking back as looking forward. We celebrate the original owner, Brigadier General Hiram Duryea, the stewards of the Hedges over the last 100 years, who we'll be hearing from, and past, present, and future generations of campers who have really enjoyed this place. We're honored to welcome Town of Indian Lake Board Member Sally Stanton, and Assemblyman Robert Sloan, I think, is going to be on his way from the 118th District. The Hedges extends our gratitude to Christine Poucher. Are you here? All right, thank you, Christine, and the Adirondack Lakes Center for the Arts for sponsoring our application for the And we thank the William G. Pomeroy Foundation of Syracuse for granting the award. Foundation trustee Darren Pomeroy sent the following greeting. We wish we could be with you to celebrate this special occasion. You're part of a select group from across the United States who are able to tell the community's history with the Pomeroy Foundation roadside marker. For your efforts to commemorate this historic Adirondack resort, we commend you and extend congratulations to all those involved with obtaining this marker. We know it will stand as an enduring testament of history in the Adirondacks for generations to come. It was exactly 141 years ago today, August 1st, 1880, likely sunnier than it was today, that our colorful and decorated Civil War veteran by the name of Hiram Duryea purchased acreage along the banks of fashionable Blue Mountain Lake for his summer escape. The first mention of the buildings down in the main compound appeared in 1882 as part of a New York City newspaper article describing a fete at nearby Prospect House Hotel. That's where current Prospect Point is. In 1888, well-known Seneca Ray Stoddard described, quote, the attractive summer place of Colonel Duryea of New York. The general's substantial holdings actually expanded over time, and he ended up owning this whole shoreline, going all the way down to the bridge, the Pioneer Bridge, all the way up to Prospect Point in the east. After that, Richard and Margaret Collins, caretakers at Great Camp Sagamore in nearby Racket Lake, purchased the Duryea property at auction in 1921 and opened to the public as the Hedges, so named for the extensive hedgerows, some of which, if you look around camp today, you can still find today. The Collinses, of which there are many today, you should know that, many here present, they were succeeded by Catherine and Richard Van Ypern in the 1970s. We'll be hearing from the Van Ypern family, Jack Van Ypern, who in turn sold to Rip and Pat Benton, who's over here. And then in 2018, a large group of loyal guests purchased the Hedges, preserving it, and this is really important, I think, as we know the history of the Adirondack Park, preserving it as public lodging, not a club, not a private place, but a public lodging in the great camp tradition. We will now hear from representatives of the past and present owners, followed by Ms. Stanton and Assemblyman Smolin. So, our first speaker on behalf of the Collins family, and each person will just introduce the next speaker, is Robert Engel, who is here in a green plaid. Here he is.
I have this because I'm a coward. Hi, I'm Robert Engel. I'm the historian at Great Camp Sagamore. My office is my grandfather's living room at Sagamore, which is a lot of fun. I say that every chance I get. Last week, Mike Salvatore sent out an email with helpful instructions to everybody, including where to park. Thank you, Mike, for that. But the parking issue was not an issue for us. We walked down from the house that my grandfather built with his brothers, that my mother and two aunts grew up in, and that my very large family still cooks multiple Thanksgiving turkeys in every year. We have Sagamore to thank for that. Um, I have a niece who is getting married this fall, and her Collins cousins from Blue Mountain Lake that she knows from coming to Blue Mountain Lake her whole life are her bridesmaids. They are each other's best friends. Our weddings and funerals tend to draw hundreds of first, second, and third cousins. We avoid the confusion of cousin math by simply referring to each other as cousins. Second, third, once removed, none of that matters. We definitely have the Hedges to thank for that. Any of us could easily rattle off a half a dozen marriages that's happened over the years between Collins family members working here, and then also summer or seasonal staff people, or sometimes guests coming here as well. That on the surface that might sound a little creepy, but you go, Grandpa. That included my grandparents as well. My grandmother was a waitress. A century ago, my great-grandparents left Sagamore to turn the Duryea camp into a resort. They were leaving some of the best jobs in the Adirondacks to do that. A second-generation Irish immigrants, each on a caretaker salary, with the support of other extended family, and probably also Alfred Vanderbilt's widow, Margaret Emerson. With that, they were able to send all 5 of those children to prestigious colleges and buy the Hedges with an additional mile of lakefront property in the 1920s. Let's see, and this was just a couple of years before Route 28 was constructed, so they did very well. Their children all returned after going to college, at least for a while, to live and work here. Whenever Margaret or Richard were asked why they left Sagamore and those wonderful jobs, the answer was always, we needed a place of our own in order to stay together as a family. Boy, did that work. In addition to their children, the Collinses brought from Sagamore to the Hedges a quarter-century of experience in the nature of true hospitality. The actual, unfakeable desire to make people feel happy and welcome and at ease when entering your space. The shy kid who arrived with low expectations for having any fun always got special attention. Not because it was good for business. That kid would have seen right through that. But because the hosts drew actual pleasure out of teaching that kid how to drive a motorboat on the most beautiful lake in the world and to see him smile. If any of you are in Blue Mountain Lake for Thanksgiving, come on over. We're right up this way. There is always room for 43 more, and we definitely have the Hedges to thank for that as well. Thank you. To keep up what is now a 50-year-old tradition, the Collinses handed over to the Van Eybrits. Jack Van Eybrits.
Excuse me, sorry to interrupt. There's a green Subaru right out front with its window down, and it's getting loud louder inside. Okay.
Well, thank you for the invitation to represent the Van Eybrits family. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here with the dedication of the historical marker. My brothers and sisters weren't able to be here, so I said, I'll go do it. I wanted to acknowledge a couple of people. The Collins family, probably 95% of you are the Collins family. Your assistance in the transition from the Collins to the Benitez was unbelievable. I have fond memories of John down by the main lodge in the height of black fly season. When we were getting eaten up, he would stand there and just have this hand going back and forth, and the bugs didn't bother him at all. Giving my dad all this information about this and that, and for years was a valuable asset. So I can't thank the Collins family enough for their help. Also acknowledging Pat and the Bentley family. You have restored every inch of this place with such grace and with such beauty. And we're so thankful that generations to come will enjoy the Hedges as well. And then Roger Kessel, who I don't believe is here, who did a masterful job on that book. And especially I feel like we're family. I guess we are because we're all Hedges family, but the number of interviews on the phone, and then the transcripts for corrections, and then to see all of the effort and the passion he had to write that book. And if he were here, I would tell him that, and also tell him I can't wait to see the movie. In 1972, my dad sold his house, sold his car, sold his painting business, sold 2 children. We used to have 8 children. He didn't sell his children. Although I did ask him, in the low moments, did you ever consider selling a child? And he said, yes, you, but nobody wanted you. But that started a 27-year challenge and an adventure for our family. It also initiated the love that our family has and has forever had for this place and for the Adirondacks. The effect it had. We did some upgrades throughout the years. We repurposed some buildings. I remember taking all of the sawdust out of the ice house and making that a place where people could stay. Duxbury as well. We moved the gazebo, I believe, down to the circle during those years. That first spring was an eventful time. We discovered all the water lines and all the sewer lines and their willingness to share their contents. Every Sunday it seemed like we'd have a sewage break. And we would dig, and we would dig, and guests would walk by and ask what's going on, and our simple answer was, this is the best place to dig for worms for fishing. Staffing, our support staff mostly came from Indian Lake, and they were not just employees, they became good friends. We came back year after year. Our family also was part of staff. Our grandkids, when they grew up, became staff, waitresses, and chambermaids. So it really became a family business for sure. And then there was Kathy Gates. And there was Kathy Gates. For 50 years, I read over there, she worked for all 3 of our families. And Kathy was amazing. She chopped wood, she had the best looking wood pile. She planted flowers, even in the stumps. She developed a relationship with the grandkids. She would take all the grandkids, put them in the back of her truck, probably not the wisest decision in carrying companions, and would go down from the mail. All our grandkids in the back of our truck. And I think if we lost 1 or 2, we probably would have noticed. But she was a special friend to my mom. She tolerated my dad, but she was a special friend and mentor to my daughter Katie. Katie would follow her around helped water the flowers. She taught Katie the names of all the flowers. And I didn't appreciate this, but she said Katie couldn't remember the impatiens flowers. And she said, just think of your dad. Our desire, like in the past, was this place would become a family-friendly place, and it did. It took a few years. The early years were tough, but families came back. They grew up with our kids, and it was a wonderful time. It was rare that we had any vacancies. The fall was different, with a whole different clientele that we enjoyed. After 27 years, my parents retired, and they retired. And they continued their love for the Adirondacks by purchasing a property at Upper Saranac Lake that we now maintain. And all those grandkids that you see in that picture come back every summer, come here and walk this property to show their kids what a wonderful place this was. The Hedges was a wonderful place. It is a wonderful place and will continue to be so. Thank you.
Dad, I got to know your daddy real well. When after we bought this lovely place, I said, could you tell me where that septic tank, that the pipe is broken, goes to cabin, I think it's cabin 2, and he'd say, oh my Lord, child, you have got a real problem. And I'd say, thank you, I know that. The only thing, I get a lot of accolades, and tomorrow, August 2nd, Rick will be gone 20 years, which I cannot believe. And I hope he's sitting here, right here, and saying, hey, how is everybody? Look at this, what you all have accomplished. It's your birthday. It's not the Hedges' birthday, it's your birthday. Because there were a lot of naysayers, a lot of people said, you're thinking of doing what? Yeah. 60 families? Are you crazy? And I said, yes, but they can't make you that way, and I'm going to be okay. So I think I look at the families, I see all of you, I miss all of you. I don't miss the 12, 14, 15-hour days, 7 days a week, I must admit, but I do miss you all. And I think that the fact that the LLC has come together, the people that have purchased this wonderful place, it's just going to keep right on going. And we asked Francie and I over at the shop. The shop is a long way. in the old hardware store building, which had not been swept out in 35 years. So everything fell right into place. But we do ask you, we look at you, kind of give you the eye and say, well, how are things at the Hedges? And you're very honest with us. And Francie will tell you, what were the two things, one day the two things, the only negatives we ever heard. The cheese grits were lumpy. And that is the only thing. So the staff, Jamie, Marianne, all of you, we just need to be patted on the back more than I do because you made this happen. Truly, I do miss you. But I know that this old girl is in good hands, not this old girl is in good hands, and for the future, it's going to be fine. And I want these youngsters to be coming up and saying, hey, Mom and Dad were here 50 years ago, and here are my children, and that's what we always wanted to have happen. And I thank you, and I thank you. That's it.
I don't know how to top cheese grits. I'm not sure I can. My name is Brad Granger, and I'm a co-managing member of the current ownership, the Hedges on Blue Mountain Lake LLC. And my partner in crime, Steve Bloom, is here with us. The other co-manager is here as well. And as you've heard, the current ownership is 60 families, or 61 families, who didn't want to see this place disappear. And we were afraid that was possible that it would disappear. So we came together to buy it, and I'll admit, having been on the steering committee and now I'm as a co-manager, it is a little bit like herding cats, but we are able to keep it together and keep it moving ahead. I've been coming since 1992. We let our children get in the back of Kathy's pickup truck and go to town too, so you weren't the only ones. Your kids invited our kids along, and it seemed like a good idea at the time. So we let that happen. But we've been coming for years, and truthfully, our children believe it's not summer if we haven't been to the Hedges yet. So it's been a big part of it for them. So we're currently, the current ownership is in our 4th season. We hope, we think we've been successful thus far. We've made some improvements, this structure being one of them. It came in kind of handy today, and given the amount of rain this summer, Jamie tells me it's come in handy for a few other things this year. That's the other thing. We found Jamie Thomas. Actually, you've been here before. Pat found it, I should say. Right? Pat found it.
I'm always looking for a deep fellow.
You've always told me that. But found Jamie, who's here full-time as our on-site manager, and he tells me this has been useful. And we've heard all the other stories about different things that work and different things that don't work. But I think that's all I have to say myself. I just want to thank you all for coming this afternoon. And we're joined by at least one of 2 guests. I haven't seen our other guest arrive yet, but we're joined by at least one. Our first guest is probably familiar to many of you. She's worked at the front desk here at the Hedges previously. And if you're from the area or grew up in the area, she's been a teacher in the Indian Lake schools. And she's a Callahan of the Callahan General Store fame. So Sally Stanton is also now a member of the Indian Lake Town Council. And I'm told she's the creative force behind Snow Cave, bringing attention to winter activities in Indian Lake. Unfortunately, we're not open in the winter, so I've not been here to enjoy that. But Sally, thank you for joining us this afternoon. We welcome a few words.
Thank you very much. I am here representing Supervisor Wells and the town of Indian Lake that are giving their very best wishes on this 100-year anniversary plaque dedication. I've been listening to other speakers, and one of the things that comes through is stories. Everybody has stories of their families, stories of guests, stories of people that worked here. And as Brad said, I have a story of my own. My grandfather, Morris Callahan, was a pilot of the Tuscarora that used to stop, and passengers would depart here, and while he was here, he visited his sister Margaret and her husband Richard, and probably got a good meal, who knows. So the Callahans and the Collinses are all related, so probably I'm your cousin. But all of the stories, and from working here also, I was down here a lot as a kid with John and Helen. Church fairs and all kinds of community events. A lot of the things that came from that were generated right here at the Hedges. And later on, I worked here at the front desk, and it's the best kept secret because it didn't make any difference what was happening. When people arrived, they were so happy to be here, and when they left, so sad. So on this occasion, and on behalf of Supervisor Wells and the town board, very best congratulations on this event, and thank you for the invitation.
Sally. I don't see the assembly member here, reined in, I guess, on his way. I was going to thank him for a couple of things, and let me let you know what those were. Member Smullen was instrumental in the passage of the Aquatic Invasive Species Transport Act in the legislature this year. And the variable leaf milfoil is already present here in the Eckford chain of lakes. And so this law brings support to the efforts to control and minimize the damage done by this invasive. And I know the Blue Mountain Lake Association's done quite a bit with that, and we wanted to thank Member Smullen for assisting with that law. Also wanted to thank him for the work of the Development Authority of the North Country. That Development Authority assisted us in the acquisition of the property, and then also assisted us in the acquisition of the house in Indian Lake that we use as a dormitory for some of our staff here during the summer. So those were the bits I were going to say about him. At this point, Jamie Thomas, our manager.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone. This is a special occasion to have all of these families together in one place at one time. I mean, it's amazing. I'd like to thank everyone who's been involved in the planning. I think Mike Salvatore, absolutely, Mary Granger, absolutely, and a number of other people who have done so much. Jerry Members, yes, who's outside under the umbrella. But an awful lot of work has gone into just a short ceremony to try and get everyone together. And I just want to sincerely thank you again for taking the time in the weather that we're dealing with to show your support and to support the history of this wonderful place. So I'd just like to give those folks and everyone involved a round of applause, please.
Maybe just one quick additional acknowledgement. Sitting in the midst of the back here is Howie Kirschenbaum. When ownership moved from Pat to our group of owners, and we don't like to talk about the owners because we're all guests together, but when that happened, the vision for how to do it was in Howie's hands. He is a great preserver of Adirondack great camps, and this was yet another example of his vision.
That when you're running this place, as Marianne and I and a number of people are, you look around and you go in the dining room, you come here for bingo or whatever we're doing at that time. You can't tell who the owning folks are and who the visitors are. Everyone, shares and comes together. And it's not like a country club. It's not like a place where I'm special and I get special consideration. Not at all. This is it's a community in the truest sense of the word. And I just think that's another thing that we really, really appreciate. And it prolongs and it encourages, it supports the history of this wonderful place. That people treat each other that way. So, in any case, thank you again for coming.
Please enjoy the food. There's going to be cake as well. More food and some lemonade.
No tours.
No, but yeah, I think we're going to take a pass on the tours today.
So we're wet.
But you can go to the gift shop. Thank you all for being here.